gives me great pleasure to introduce to you a world-class musician. This young man has played throughout the country. He's worked with some very popular folks that you will probably know of. He operates daily as the Chief Information Officer of the company that he has invested in. He's a man of many, many abilities. Today he's going to share his bass guitar expertise with us. No stranger to open heart. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the incomparable Cecil McDaniel.
What today I'm calling today's message is the Sankofa effect. The Sankofa effect. The Sankofa, if you're not familiar with it, is it's a concept from the West African Enigma tribe that basically talks about. I like to classify it or characterize it by saying, looking backward to go forward. Looking backward go forward. And you see the two symbols that are usually used for Sankofa. One of them being the bird that is reaching back to pull that egg that helps, again, orient itself moving toward a golden future, and then the other symbol that's there. And then I use the quote, one is wise who revisits the past, but resolves not to make a home there. Because it's important when we begin thinking about the past. Oftentimes, there's some dangers if we get too caught up in the past. I remember years ago, back when I was a teenager, there was a guy at the church where I attended at the time who was an older man. You know, he was older to us. And The thing about it is that he was fascinating to us because being older, he still wore, sort of modern clothes and everything. And we used to tell him every Sunday how sharp he was, and he would always laugh and like to hear people say that because he was stylish, he was dressed and all of that, and he even had a car that he had put some stripes and some other things on. And it was really interesting to see him because, everybody thought Mr. Carter is with it, he dresses nice, and he has the sharp clothes and those kinds of things. And then I went off to college, and then I moved away from there, and I went back a few years after that. And when I saw Mr. Carter again, one of the unfortunate things is he still had on the clothes that he had worn maybe 6, 7 years ago. They were sharp back then. They weren't so sharp later. The car that, looked nice back then with the stripes and everything on it looked kind of outdated. And he was somebody who, while at one point had things going for him, he got to that point where didn't quite make it because he was holding on to the past. And we can do that. We can hold on to our past and not let go and get caught up in it. And sometimes people get caught up in their stories that are rooted in the past. I mean, if you think about somebody asks you who you are, and what happens often with people when they're asked who they are, they get into their story. Sometimes you are sorry that you asked them to tell you about themselves because they will go on and on and on. And so often it's one of those stories, it's one of those things where people use the past to cripple them and keep them from moving forward into the future. If you recall the story in the New Testament where Jesus encounters a man by the pool of Siloam. And if you remember that story, it was a man who, when he was there by the pool, he had been unable to walk for 38 years. And Jesus encountered him one day, and they had a conversation. And the man started saying to Jesus, well, I have been here having people to bring me here to the pool every day for the last 38 years because I've been unable to walk. And the legend had it is that when the wind blew and there were ripples in the pool, that was a sign that an angel was stirring up the water. And the first person into the pool after that happened would be healed. But every time the man was ready for people to take him, somebody beat him too. And so when Jesus was talking with him, and Jesus said, well, do you want to be made well? And he started going into excuses as to why he wouldn't be able to be made well. He was dwelling on his past, and Jesus finally simply said to him, I'm going to take you into another reality. I'm going to take you into something else. Take up your bed and walk. And the man got up and he was able to walk because he helped him to understand that he was not his story. There was a new possibility that was available to him. And that's what I'm saying today, that even when we look at the past, it's important that as we look at the past to understand that while we have stories, while we have situations and circumstances that have happened to us, while we have a history, we are not completely that history. We ought not to have ourselves crippled by any unfortunate things in the past. Because one of the things that we know all too well is that there are people who are very, very eager to remind us of our past. Amen, somebody?
Yeah, that's right.
As soon as you say, I'll change, I'm a new person, I'm making a new start, I'm not like I used to be, there's going to be somebody that's going to remind us that's what you said the last time. Or they're going to say, well, what about this? Or what about that? They're eager to remind us of that, eager to keep us wedded to our past, even when the past is not something that's pleasant or something that's helpful. And what we have to learn to do is how to use the past as a tool that propels us into a bright future. And so that's where I'm looking at for us to go today. And what I'm looking at us learning today is how we can use the past to propel us into a bright future. Number one is to recognize that one of the things about the past is that we often regret the past, but we all make mistakes. And there are mistakes that we might have made in the past. We all make mistakes. There's no one who doesn't make mistakes. There's no one who is not perfect in that way, who is imperfect, not imperfect in the way of not having made mistakes. That's fine. We learn from mistakes. That's how. If you look at a child, how a child learns to walk, one of the ways that they learn is by falling down. And as they are falling down, they get back up. And they fall down, and they get back up, and they fall down, and they get back up. And soon they're able to develop the coordination and the momentum that they no longer fall down so much, but they're able to walk forward. And that's the thing of it is that mistakes is not about the fact that we've made mistakes. We all make mistakes. But what can we learn from the mistakes that we've made? What can we learn? How do those mistakes translate into learning and understanding to be a better person, to have a better life, to have better relationships? All of us make mistakes. And the thing of it is that a lot of us have come from religious understandings that want to again tag us with those mistakes and say how sinful and how awful and how unworthy we are. But the fact of the matter is that when we were created by God, God said that the creation was very good. And that never was revoked. That never was taken back. We all are good. We all make mistakes, but we still are good because we have another opportunity. We have another chance. So when we look back on the past, we understand that we've made mistakes. But what have we learned from those mistakes? You all heard me say this before, there are no wasted relationships. I said that recently. I had a woman come and grab me after the fight and say that. You don't know what it was like spending all that time with that person. I said, but all that time you spent with that person hopefully will help you understand the type of person you want to be with in the future. So it wasn't wasted. It helped you to get to where you want to go, or at least know what you want and what you don't want. So that's the thing, that there are mistakes that we make in the past. Now, once we embrace the past and we understand that there are mistakes there, we know that there are lessons there. We know that there are lessons there. There are lessons that help us when we start moving into writing that new chapter. There are lessons that are there, that are available to us. And we say something in the Science of Mind teaching all the time, which is principle is not bound by precedent. Principle is not bound by precedent, which means that whatever we might have done before, that spirit, God, the universe, the love intelligence, whatever you want to call it, is still open and available and willing for each of us to meet our potential, to reach our potential. There was a person I remember a long time ago talking with who was having some real problems in her life. And as I was talking with her, and I was saying to her, you know, what's your spiritual life like? What are your spiritual practices like? And she said, I don't have any. And I said, well, why not? I mean, it's important to have that time to take that opportunity to get in touch with that which is within you. And she said, well, you don't understand. There's some very, very horrible things that I've done that I'm ashamed of. And I know that God doesn't want to hear my prayers because of those things. And I said, well, if you think that about God, then you're stuck. Because the very presence and power that can get you through the situation that you're talking about, you won't even reach out because you think that somehow God won't hear and God won't answer that prayer. And as we continue continue to talk, I continue to try to convey to her that it's important to understand in the way we see things, is that God doesn't hold things against us. God is not out there. You know, as I grew up, there was a person in our Sunday school class who used to talk about it and used to scare the devil out of me. That, you know, as we were doing things, that God was sitting up there with a chalkboard writing down everything that we did. You know, you used to hear the old folks say he's writing all the time. And I would be afraid because they would say, if you would get caught in the sense that the world would end and you didn't ask for forgiveness and get that erased, then all that would be held against you. So I was constantly moving around in a state of fear. Oh, if I do this and oh, if I do that and all of that. There's not a God like that. There's the love, intelligence, universe that loves us, that gives life to us. If you wanna say, how do I know that? Breathe. The fact that you're breathing, the fact that your heart is beating, the blood is flowing warm in your veins, all of those things is proof of that. So then we can begin to understand when we're talking about moving into a bright future, that we have all of the possibilities and all that's available to us to help us to make it. And so when we look at the past, it's important to recognize the gifts that are there. The gifts that are there. And it helps us. In the book, The Secrets of the Shambhala, it tells the story of a man who goes to Tibet and he finds himself caught up in this whole drama, caught up in this whole thing to find Shambhala, which was a mythical place in Buddhism where there was supposed to be, you know, absolute ideal living where people could just, you know, think things and they would happen, and there was peace and there was harmony and there was all of those things that were a part of it. And in the adventure there, the man ultimately finds that the place exists. He finds that it exists, but he also found that whenever he would have negative thoughts about people and negative thoughts about situations and circumstances, it would draw the Chinese army that was trying to find a place to destroy it. And so as he was moving about and he ultimately found the place, he ultimately led to its destruction because of that. But when finally it started to get destroyed and people started dispersing themselves and they said this was a part of what was supposed to happen too, and he sat down with one of the wise men and he surveyed the things that had happened on the way. And there were situations and circumstances and instances where he was trapped and the army was pursuing him, and there would be something that would show up right at the right moment to guide him down a stairwell or down an alley or to go this place or go that place. And when he started talking with the man and the man started pointing those things out to him, he realized that nothing happened by accident. He realized that all of those things were not coincidences, but it was about being a part of a larger universe that is always kindly intentioned toward us. And so when we learn when we look on the past and we start to see those things that happened, that there were situations or circumstances that we thought were unfortunate or that we thought were somehow debilitating, but yet we wouldn't be the people we are today had it not been for that. When we look at those mistakes and we understand, the fact of it is that all of it is a part of the tapestry of life that is amazing. And when we begin to understand that, we can begin to see that God is behind it all. That God is expressing it all. When we begin to understand that, we can become like the apprentice weaver who was there, who had a big giant rug before him, and who was doing the weaving in the tapestry that was there, and he would make a mistake, but on the other side was the master weaver. And every time he would make a mistake, the master weaver, because of his experience and expertise and presence, was able to take that mistake and weave it into the design so that it all looked well. And the thing of it is that when we look at our past when we look at those things that are happening, it's understanding that whatever is going on, we are making a magnificent design that is called life. It's called your life, and it's called my life. And when we start looking at that, and we start appreciating those things, we can begin to understand that in every situation and circumstance, God showed up. God showed up in the health problems. God showed up in the financial problems. God showed up in relationship problems. All of those things. We never have been alone, and we are not alone now. And that's what helps us to keep on keeping on. That's what gives us the joy and the inspiration and the motivation and the understanding that no matter what it looks like right now, where I am standing in a place where I am open and I am available to God, and all is well. Now, sometimes people say, well, how can you say that? Because this and that is happening. Well, my history has shown me in the past that when I thought things were hopeless, when I thought it was over with, God shows up. Presence of power shows up. What I have in me shows up. It's there, and it keeps on showing up. Just let it show up. It's going to show up. It's going to show up if you open up and allow all to come in, guide you through each and every day, and let you know that you are loved. You are awesome. You are the best that God has. Each and every one of you, the best. And so it is.
So it is.